This year marks the 54th anniversary of the federal fair housing law. Montgomery County has had a long-standing commitment to ensuring equitable access to housing here in our community, which is important not just morally, but economically as well. We must have a vast and diverse ecosystem of housing options, and accessibility to those options has never been more important than right now, as we are still experiencing the outcomes and the results of the pandemic. And so we must do everything we can to protect our residents here in Montgomery County. And I want to acknowledge the great work of Mr. Jim Stowe and the Office of Human Rights and the county executive, who has partnered with this council to ensure just policies are enacted and enforced. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Stowe to make some comments and introduce broadly the organizations that are here, but he will make some comments now. Mr. Stowe.
Thank you, Mr. President, and to members of council and this audience gathered here today. Fair Housing Month, critically important, and probably no more important place for ourselves to feel comfortable, cared for, and sheltered than where we live. And so it's critically important that we acknowledge that on this day throughout Montgomery County, reminding persons that any barriers that are in place to prevent people from having that opportunity be removed, particularly those that are illegal and not part of what we believe to be the way we live life here in Montgomery County. And so we look forward then to persons being involved in this process throughout the month. There'll be a number of activities going on that we'll be, in fact, engaged in. But I want to let you know just a little bit briefly here about some of the issues that are facing this community right now in housing, real quickly. The issue of disabilities. It's a real big issue. Those, and let me say two things about that. Disability as relates then to places to actually find an apartment that in fact is already modified for someone with disabilities actually to move into. And then the issue of assist animals becoming a real issue here in Montgomery County as well. And an accommodation for construction and modifications. The second issue that remains a big problem for us is race and national origin. Continue to be a problem here in our county. Appraisals. You're hearing more about that now in the news, where there is inequity in appraisals, depending upon the property and who owns that property. A problem here as well. Mortgage lending, an issue here. And here's one that really, really bothers me more than anything else, is harassment in terms and conditions. Particularly as the pandemic has come on, people get behind their rent and also need things repaired. They are being pursued for sexual favors in order to get those things done. That cannot happen here in Montgomery County. And so we look forward then to trying to do things about that. So our commission is represented today. I see one of our commissioners coming in right now. Come up, Dr. Gupta, one of our commissioners right here. Also, Janice Freeman is here as well. Jackie Simon is here, representing the Interagency Fair Housing Coordinating Group. And I just met this young lady here, Vili Avrinpour, who's vice chairman of the Greater Capital Area Associated Realtors, the actual public policy committee. And so we're glad to have them here supporting what we're doing as well. And so I'm going to ask if she would come up, if I can. Is that appropriate, Mr. President?
Sure.
Vili, if you will.
Thank you. Thank you, County President and County Executive, for celebrating this important anniversary and keeping Montgomery County a leader in fair housing policies. Realtors like myself do take fair housing very seriously and strive to provide equal opportunity, equal access, and equal protection for all. GCAR is committed to educating our industry and our members through our various initiatives, series, and programs which promote practices of more inclusive and equitable real estate community. So thank you guys for the work that you're doing as well. Thank you.
And also, we've got to recognize Zach Trupp. Step up. Welcome back home, Zach. Also, I want to recognize now Jackie Simon, who's one of the gurus here. We believe in fair housing and housing-related issues, period. Jackie, please come up and say a word.
Thank you. Altitudinally challenged. This morning reminds me so much of two pieces of paper I carry with me. The first is a quote from Pablo Casals, who said, "The capacity to care is that which gives life its deepest significance." And I think the caring that we have seen this morning about community. The other I carry is a community that excludes even one of its members is no community at all. And I think we find among us a commonality, no matter who we are, where we come from, what we look like, what we believe. There is a part of each of us that is connected, and I just am so happy to see this annual celebration of Fair Housing Month, but it goes on forever. We must always be vigilant and work hard and remain constant. Thank you.
Mr. President, as you mentioned, I'm here representing the County Executive, Mark Elrich, and I know he would want us to all be aware that because of these folks behind me, our Human Rights Commission, Interagency Fair Housing Coordinating Group, and our Greater Capital Area Association of Realtors all working together to ensure then that we have a fair and equitable place for people to live in Montgomery County. So thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you all for those inspirational words. I will now read the proclamation. Whereas this year marks the 54th anniversary of the Federal Fair Housing Law, which was passed in 1968 to eliminate discriminatory housing practices, and whereas Montgomery County has long been a leader in its commitment to ensuring equal opportunity for all and its efforts to provide public awareness, training, and enforcement of fair housing practices to those in the industry and county residents, and whereas residents and housing professionals across Montgomery County are encouraged to participate in activities which further fair housing awareness, and whereas the national theme is fair housing, not just words, and we are encouraging educational programs and other similar efforts aimed at ensuring that there are no barriers to fair housing practices in Montgomery County. And whereas the Montgomery County Office of Human Rights and the Interagency Fair Housing Coordinating Group have the responsibility and authority to remove barriers to housing choices, investigate complaints about housing discrimination, and foster a climate of fair and equal access to housing options in the county for all our residents. Now, therefore, it be resolved that Mark Elrich as County Executive and myself as Council President hereby recognize the 54th anniversary of the celebration of the Federal Fair Housing Act of 1968 in Montgomery County, Maryland, signed on this 5th day of April in the year 2022 by myself and County Executive Elrich. Thank you all again. Let's take a picture.